Today on Ian vs. Daddy Bones, we're adding more content to the show and going back to the metaverse with the Meta Quest 3. Welcome back! It's another exciting episode of Ian vs. Daddy Bones. I'm Ian Daddy Bones. I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook right now, hey everybody, what's going on? As always, I got a special high five and a nut dap to all my Facebook and Patreon subscribers going above and beyond, down the orange Hot Wheels track, supporting the brand, getting access to bonus content for $2 a month on Facebook, $3 a month on Patreon, plus you get access to the Original Geeks podcast. Thank you all very much for supporting the brand and putting up with my bullshit. I appreciate each and every one of you. To everybody else, welcome to the show. I am very excited. I am very tired. By the way, I've been up since 5:30 this morning getting ready for work, and I got out of work this morning and I'm running on I didn't go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning and I had to get up at 5:30. So that basically tells you how my night went, but I'm going to explain how my night went because how my night went is right in front of me in this fucking box. To my right, your left on the screen. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Meta Quest 3. Now, originally this was going to be an unboxing video, but I ran into some issues over the past couple of days. Right now it's Tuesday. This thing showed up on Monday. It was supposed to arrive on Saturday, and then my tracking app told me it was out for delivery on Sunday. Well, come to find out, I got stuck with having to deal with UPS's bullshit to get my package, so it didn't arrive on Saturday because UPS for some reason decided to hold up my package until they found out what the apartment number was, because to them, this address is missing an apartment number when I own my house. There is no apartment number. Just place my package on my fucking porch. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. And then Sunday, it's telling me it's out for delivery, and it still hasn't shown up. And then when I'm checking the tracking and I actually look on the carrier website, that's when UPS is telling me that they're waiting on a fucking apartment number. So I had to make an account, right, through UPS on my phone, create a password and a screen name and all this shit, just so I could put in my tracking number and have to hit a yes button that says my address is correct. Like it was an autofill form, you idiots. Like the address was correct when you got it the first time. And it's only UPS. This shit doesn't happen with FedEx. It doesn't happen with DHL, who for some reason, I thought they went out of business a couple of years ago, but they're still doing their fucking thing. Even they don't fuck up my packages. Sometimes I even get my packages a day before it's telling me my package is supposed to arrive. If it tells me it's supposed to be there on Friday, sometimes I get lucky and get that shit on a Thursday. You know what I mean? But I finally get a hold of somebody on the phone Sunday. Poor guy that runs the local UPS shipping location. It has nothing to do with actual UPS. It's just like franchising their logo and brand to ship your shit through UPS. So this poor guy freaking was hearing my explanation on everything and basically told me I don't know why your tracking app is telling you it's out for delivery. UPS doesn't make deliveries on Sunday. I'm sorry, UPS. If the churches are open on Sunday, you are open on Sunday. It is 2024. Miss me with that, well, we're closed in honor of our Lord. No, you're fucking not. You ship my package, put it on my porch. And if your fucking delivery driver is too dumb to figure out whether or not there should or shouldn't be an apartment number, Google the address, okay? It's matchup time. look at the picture on the phone and look at the house that you're standing in front of. That's where you put the package. I don't even work for UPS. Why am I coming up with better solutions for their employees to do their jobs more efficiently? Anyway, I got my package. It finally fucking arrived. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and do the unboxing real quick, and then I'm going to go back into discussion. But right here, we got the MetaQuest 3. Now, it says, inside the box, MetaQuest 3 headset, standard facial interface, pre-installed, basically your software. 2 MetaQuest Touch Plus controllers, 2 wrist straps, power adapter, charging cable, 2 AA batteries. So, I will say, now this comes in a little square box, says MetaQuest 3, and it's got its little slide cover on it. Now, this box is like 3 times the size less than what the Oculus Quest 2 box was, and I'll get into that in a moment, but as you can see, you just open up your box, and there's your headset and your controllers. You got the MetaQuest 3 VR headset that is absolutely sick and amazing. And you also have your 2 controllers with your wrist straps already attached. So that in a nutshell is what's inside your box. You have another little white box, but this is basically your power cable, your power adapter, you know what I mean? So, and plus your paperwork and everything. So, basically, I wound up getting a MetaQuest 3 because, little rewind time, during the pandemic, when my wife and I were furloughed, we were on unemployment, and, the government started handing out stimulus checks. My wife and I were responsible as fuck with our government money and our unemployment, making sure our house was full of food and we were on top of our bills and everything was getting taken care of. So when we were all dealing with this period of uncertainty where we didn't know what the hell was going on with COVID and whatnot, we're all quarantined and stuck in our house, and everybody and their mother is at each other's throats on social media, we were making sure we were definitely being responsible as fuck with our money, paying our bills, staying on top of everything. And as the months went on and we basically got into that round 2 of the stimulus, by then my wife and I were both working, and during this period of time, I decided, what, we've been responsible as fuck with a lot of shit, paying off bills. We even replaced some things in our house, like our hot water heater. So it's like, what, I want to buy myself something fun. I got a PlayStation 4 that I don't even get to use anymore because my son's either playing Fortnite or Binding of Isaac on it, or my teenage daughter, who at the time was 10, 11 years old during the pandemic, Natalia's playing PlayStation 4. She's playing Rayman Legends and Minecraft and all this other stuff. So it's like, I had no time to enjoy my PlayStation 4 because my kids were always on it, and the PlayStation 5 just hit stores, so people were scrambling trying to get a PS5, not being successful getting a PlayStation 5, and I was hearing a lot about this Oculus Quest 2 that Facebook was promoting the hell out of, and I knew that some people on my friends list wound up getting these MetaQuest 2, and I know what Oculus is. I've been familiar with Oculus over the past couple of years, from when it was originally started as Kickstarter funding and whatnot, and it's virtual reality. It's a standalone VR headset, and for somebody like me who grew up in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, I was exposed to virtual reality when I was 10, 11, 12 years old through science fiction movies, TV shows, and even being a Nintendo kid with video game magazines. They were always talking about futuristic upcoming tech. So VR was always a thing that people were talking about, was being worked on. And honestly, by the time Christmas 1992 rolled around, I got an issue of Sega Visions magazine in the mail, which was For those of you today who know what Game Informer is, Game Informer, or Sega Visions was basically Game Informer for everybody that bought a Sega Genesis or a Sega Game Gear in the 90s, because whenever you bought like a Sega console or even certain Sega games, there was always a mail-away card for like 6 free issues of Sega Visions magazine. So I was always getting Sega Visions in the mail. It was Sega's Nintendo Power. And I got one issue that had the Sega VR headset. And basically this cover picture showed this black and red streamlined VR headset that looked clunky and chunky as fuck. And the meat and potatoes of the article was Sega's working on a VR headset that's going to be coming out soon, that's going to be compatible with your Sega Genesis and your Sega CD systems, and Sega was constantly raving about Sega VR. So I remember being in 7th grade hearing all about Sega VR and thinking virtual reality was right around the corner, you know what I mean? And then Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man is in fucking theaters, and that whole movie revolves around VR gone wrong and shit and all this stuff. And, you know, VR has always been one of those, what's the best way to think it? It's one of those futuristic inventions that people were always allegedly working on, trying to get it down right, even though there was always something missing that they just weren't getting right. Something wasn't clicking to make this perfect. You know what I mean? And there's other examples of things like that where, you know, it takes a little while for like shit to click and make sense. So with VR constantly being worked on over the years, you know, by the time I graduated high school, there was virtual reality, but end of the 90s virtual reality usually consisted of like these like, I don't want to say kiosks, but it was like, they were always in like malls and shit. It was always like something you would go into, stand on, you're standing in like this ring and you have this freaking tethered giant fucking headset, and it's always some stupid like amusement park style adventure. You know what I mean? Like I remember there was one in San Antonio, Texas at the Riverwalk Mall when I was in the Air Force that I never tried, but I remember people always being intrigued about this thing, probably because it was so fucking huge with the setup. But basically, you know, VR's always been being worked on in the background, and by the time they got it right, you know, it was like between 2010, 2015, so by the time I knew that people were able to buy standalone VR headsets that could hook up to your computer, that you could enjoy virtual reality on. You know, this was like at a time when like Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was coming out for systems, because you like Oculus started as like a crowdfund, and then it was like official, and then there was like Oculus Rift, and I know people that had an Oculus Rift, and I think even an Oculus Go, but there was also these like gadgets and gizmos and shit that you could buy for like your Samsung phones, where it was like Samsung VR, you know what I mean? So people were trying to experiment, dabble in it, in the more smartphone technology and augmented reality and camera tech and all this shit like comes together. That's when VR starts making sense. And for me, seeing the Oculus Quest 2 be available, because like the PlayStation 2 hit stores right around the same time the Oculus Quest 2 became available for like everybody to purchase, and I decided to jump on this VR headset to see what all the hype was about. And I mean, granted, I did try VR before, and I mean, I played Job Simulator on somebody's VR headset years ago, so I definitely, you know, got to dip my toes into it like once just to see what it was all about. And then, you know, 5 years later, I'm in a position where I can now buy a VR headset. So that's my thing. I decided to buy the Oculus Quest 2 because my kids were basically taking over my PS4. I had no time to myself. So what better way to have some me time than to get a VR headset? So I jumped on the Oculus during the pandemic, and you know, from the time I first got involved in VR to where we are right now, the brand was Oculus. It was called the Oculus Quest, then the Oculus Quest 2, and then like Facebook bought the Oculus brand to where Oculus was now a Facebook brand, but then Facebook wound up rebranding themselves globally as Meta to where now Instagram, WhatsApp, Oculus, it's now been phased out and replaced as the Meta Quest. So, you know, they got Instagram, Facebook, Meta Quest, WhatsApp, you know, all the different brands under Meta. So, you know, it adapted and grew as Facebook dumped money into it because this is now Facebook VR, and I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Like, the best way I could describe my experience with the Oculus Quest 2 was like everything that was new and fun about Nintendo Wii with like the motion controllers as I'm mimicking holding invisible Wii remotes, but like the whole wiggle it and shake it, you know what I mean? Slash at the air, point at your TV, you know. Nintendo Wii was basically showing you how to navigate VR without having an actual headset. And that's what the problem I feel was like 25, 30 years ago when I'm looking at prototype VR in like Sega Visions magazine. They're showing like people wearing this headset, but they're also showing them holding an old school style D-pad video game controller, and this fucker's not even rocking analog sticks yet. You know what I mean? So it's like, of course it wasn't working. You're not trying to handle it right. But then at the same time, they also thought you needed these big clunky gloves, which yeah, you did for like the motion tracking, but still with like, you know, these giant clunky gloves, and now I got this little fucking controller that just fits in my hand, and this in itself is an upgrade itself compared to the Oculus Quest 2 headset. But it's like, with VR, it's basically everything you loved about playing Nintendo Wii, but now you have the screen right on your face, and it's not just that the screen's on your face, your neck is now the right analog stick on your traditional video game controller. Whether you play Xbox or PlayStation 4, or even you have a Nintendo Switch, you know, your right Joy-Con, you know, your C buttons on the Nintendo 64 controller, that's your fucking neck in VR, because now you got your controllers, and they'll turn into your hands once you're in the metaverse, so you're like able to navigate and whatnot, but at the same time you can completely look over your shoulders, look up at the sky, and just be like, whoa, this is fucking so immersive and sick. And like, it's weird because you can play games on this thing, but you can also download additional software and have experiences on this thing. That's how I really look at it. Like, I don't look at it as a VR gaming machine. Yes, I play games on this, but there's so much more shit you can do that's not necessarily playing a game. Like, there's YouTube VR. And once you like fuck around with YouTube VR, it's like regular YouTube, but now you have access to like YouTube 360 videos, YouTube 180 videos, YouTube 3D videos, YouTube VR videos. So there's additional YouTube content tabs strictly for this. And like for me and my family and my wife and my kids, like we buy a lot of our movies digitally. I used to do it through the Google Play Store, but now I buy my movies through YouTube because YouTube movies got absorbed into YouTube. Or Google movies got absorbed into YouTube. So I go into my library, I could access any of my movies. Like, for example, Godzilla vs. Kong, okay? I put it on that epic scene where they face off in Hong Kong with the neon lights and whatnot. Like, that shit was so amazing. Like, going into my settings and setting it for like the largest size screen, going into the settings, setting it for a curved screen, and you're literally, when you're rocking the headset and you're watching this, it's literally like you're standing in a fucking movie theater by yourself You know what I mean? Like how you go to the movies and like you're all about watching movies, and then Nicole Kidman's stupid ass shows up and starts telling you about, oh, how wonderful it is going to the movies, and you're like, I know, bitch, I'm waiting for you to shut the fuck up so I can watch the movie that I just paid money for. So instead, I got Nicole Kidman telling me how awesome the theater experience is, and it's like, I know, I'm here, I'm waiting for the movie to start. Well, now, it's like I'm standing in a movie theater all by myself, there's no Nicole Kidman to interrupt me, and I'm literally watching this giant-ass screen. And it's amazing being able to have to look from the left to the right because the screen's so fucking huge. You're not absorbing the whole picture, and it's so amazing. And not just that, but there's like certain things you can find if you look hard enough for it. Like, you can go on YouTube VR and you can search for that scene from the Avengers Endgame. The scene that everybody loves. You know what I mean? And not only are you watching a full 4K version of that battle scene, but now it's in 3D, so it's literally watching that Avengers Assemble moment in 3D, standing in your living room with your VR headset on, and it's absolutely awesome. Like, at this point, a lot of the games that people are playing on VR at this point are like 8 years old. Like your job simulators, your Fruit Ninjas, like that shit's been around for years. But it's affordable. And that's the thing. I'm going to take a break real quick because I just glanced at my timer. But when I get back, we're going to dive back into this. We're back. Like I said, it's pretty affordable to like get into this. Not just for like the price. The price is decent. You know what I mean? To be able to buy a standalone out-of-box VR headset. But like when I got my Oculus Quest 2, it cost me like $400, which didn't break the bank. It wasn't the end of the world, and I could honestly say I definitely got my $400 out of my Oculus because, like I said, I don't look at it necessarily like a game machine. I look at it like an experience machine because there's so many apps that I feel give you experiences, and there's some games that feel like experiences more than actual games as I drop my vape. And what I mean by that is there's this app called Wander. I paid $10 for it, right? Wander is basically a 3D VR Google Maps Street View mashed together that lets me go all over the world, anywhere I want to go. Whether it's the Eiffel Tower, the fucking White House, New York City, Chicago, Disney World, or standing in front of my mother's house, okay? I can go anywhere I want on Wander, and literally, and this is the cool thing, I can stand there, turn around 360, and like look all around Times Square, look all around the fucking buildings. You could also use the analog stick to teleport yourself. You could literally walk around, you could literally walk down these VR 3D picture streets. Like, I could walk around the block in my mom's neighborhood, the neighborhood that when I would go out the front door in the morning to go to the bus stop, to go to school. I could go to my mom's house and literally walk around the block and take the same path that my parents take every night when they walk the dog. And it's just like walking down a corridor in Doom. You know what I mean? Or Assassin's Creed or Resident Evil. It's just pushing forward on your analog stick. And with, you know, all these Google vehicles that go around the world with the cameras on top and take all these pictures, this is what they're doing with it. You know what I mean? So it's like such an amazing experience being able to go anywhere I want. Like, for example, I'm a big wrestling fan, right? I love me some pro wrestling. Well, a lot of American wrestlers, when they go to Japan, especially if it's their first trip, wrestlers love marking out when they go to Japan because there's a place called Ribera's Steakhouse. And Ribera's Steakhouse is like a little hole-in-the-wall freaking steakhouse in Japan, but it's where all the wrestlers go. Like, all the major players and all the superstars get their pictures, have their pictures hanging on the wall at Ribera's Steakhouse. And there's this Ribera Steakhouse jacket that everybody wants. You know what I mean? Like, you know you made it, you know you at least did something in the wrestling business to make it to Japan and put yourself in a position where you can buy a Ribera Steakhouse jacket. And you know you're an extra special somebody if you don't even have to pay for that Ribera Steakhouse jacket. They just give that shit to you. So there's a lot of wrestlers that earn that jacket, buy that jacket, and there's also plenty of wrestlers who get called a mark for wanting that jacket in the first place. So all I'm saying is, with Wander, I can go right to Ribera Steakhouse and stand right in front of the fucking place and like look all around it, like, wow, this is crazy. Like, all these pictures of wrestlers on the outside of the building, on the corner of it and whatnot. It's super sick. And the best part is like, with the Google Photos, they keep an archive of every time they like took a picture of this place. So you can work your way back in time and go from like 2024 to 2020 to 2016 to 2012, back to when Google first started documenting these images in the first place. It's a nice little way to like watch your town evolve, watch your neighborhood change. And a great example is, I can go to Las Vegas, right? And just by going through the different years and the eras of when they took pictures, you can see like buildings get constructed. You know what I mean? You can go from seeing building being demolished to the empty space to the construction started on the new place. Now you got the finished building, and now the place is already open for business. It's fucking crazy. But then there's also other moments that with the headset that lets me get reunited with old friends. You know, classic games that get the VR treatment. So something old is new again. Like for me, and I'm going to start streaming this soon, but Resident Evil 4 VR. Like when I was able to buy Resident Evil 4 on the Oculus Quest 2, like completely blew my mind that I was able to play Resident Evil 4 in VR. Like, and because the reason it's such a big deal to me is when I first played Resident Evil 4, I had it on a Nintendo Wii. So my first time, I skipped the PS2 and the GameCube release, grabbed the Wii version, playing that with motion controllers for the first time. That was amazing and so much fun. Playing it in VR rebuilds the visuals from the ground up, but to a degree, the controls is still like playing it in the Wii. So Resident Evil 4 was a lot of fun, but like I said, there's so much stuff you can do with VR, and basically, the reason I stopped using my Oculus Quest 2, and this is the only downside to having the Oculus Quest 2, and it might be a downside to owning the Oculus Quest 3, but I'll explain that in a moment, but there's really no serviceable parts. Like if you have a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, you could always go to the store, buy extra controllers, even if you don't want to buy the official Sega, Nintendo, Sony branded controllers, you could always buy a third-party controller like an ASCII pad that's still going to do the job, you know what I mean? Or something from Mad Catz or whatnot. But with the Oculus Quest 2, yes, you could go to Target and Walmart and buy the Elite head strap. You can buy the carrying case. You can buy the headset itself. They just don't sell backup controllers, which is the dumbest fucking thing in the world. But now it gives you a reason for needing the fucking warranty. Because I wasn't able to do anything with my controllers on the Oculus Quest 2 once the controller drift set in and got super fucking bad to the point to where I couldn't even navigate my menus because my controller wanted to move up on one controller and stay stuck going left on the other. So it just became a mess, and I just pretty much called it a day with the Oculus Quest 2. Like, I really have no complaints with it. I absolutely loved that VR headset. I thought it was one of the coolest consoles I ever had in my life, even though it wasn't a console. I can't even call it a portable. It's just a fucking VR headset. That's what it is. It's a headset. It's not a portable. It's not a console. It's a fucking headset. And the thing is, like, with having no serviceable parts, and once everything shipped to bed and I pretty much had to shelf it, then it became a matter of time until whether or not do I want to get another Oculus, well, do I now want to get a Meta Quest 2 again? Or do I want to upgrade and get the Meta Quest 3? So the reality is, since my Oculus died, I've been mulling it over, I've been thinking about it, but also with my toy collecting, launching Ian versus Daddy Bones, and the time that I've spent not fucking around in VR, I managed to start this new podcast, keep it going for a year and a half. I just hit episode 80. Everything is going strong, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying I'm in a better place or I was happier with VR by any means. I don't want it to sound like that. It's just, since I wasn't able to use my Oculus so much after it went to drift hell, you know, I had the Oculus when I started collecting Masters of the Universe figures. I had the Oculus when Pete died. I had the Oculus when I stopped drinking. I had the Oculus when I started working out. So the Oculus was really a really good depression tool for me when I really needed it, because, you know, when I was like missing Pete and whatnot and life was feeling shitty, I just dive into VR and fuck around and escape for a little bit, and it's absolutely fucking amazing. But the thing is, like, since the time I've started doing Ian versus Daddy Bones, I got the Patreon. I have Facebook subscribers. So now I'm looking at it as upgrading to the Meta Quest 3 is a wonderful tool for me to use for Ian versus Daddy Bones. And the way I look at it is, I didn't have the money, and not to mention too, I was also crowdfunding Eternia for like a good year, making sure that was a success, so I didn't really have time for video games or anything when I was getting Ian versus Daddy Bones off the ground. But now I'm in a position, because of the Patreon subscribers, the Facebook subscribers, and the support, I was able to capitalize on an offer that was presented to me. Meta was basically like, hey, we noticed there's not much activity on your Meta Quest 2 account. It's probably because we discontinued the system, and we want to invite you to upgrade to the Meta Quest 3. We want you to try it out for 30 days, and if you're interested in keeping it, we will give you the option of financing it through a firm for $25 a month. So basically, with me doing the quick calculator math, I would be stupid not to jump on this opportunity. Because A, between my Patreon and my Facebook subscribers, high fives to everybody, y'all made it possible for me to upgrade to the Meta Quest 3. Because between the Patreon and the Facebook scratch, I am now able to go back into VR. I am now able to play my games that I had on the Meta Quest 2, the Oculus Quest 2, everything that I was doing in 2020, 21 to 22, I am now able to do again, and now I have a reason for going live with it. So what I'm going to be doing is pretty much using my VR time as content time that I'm going to be calling OGPC VR Live. I'm going to be fucking around with the stuff on my in my library, because the reality is, and this is my little, this is my suggestion to anybody watching this right now who may be interested in getting one of these MetaQuest 3 headsets. Fucking do it. Because if you go to their site, they're going to give you the option of trying it out for 30 days, financing it through Shop for $25 a month, and if you do it, it includes a 2-year warranty, so that way if there's any issues with controller drift, I don't have to worry about not finding replacement controllers in the stores, because I will just contact Meta and be like, hey, my controllers are fucking up, I need new ones. And then they're going to send me new ones, okay? This thing's covered under warranty for 2 fucking years, plus they gave me a membership in Meta Plus for 2 years, which is basically Game Pass, PlayStation Plus for MetaQuest, and I can honestly say that if I was a new user that jumped on this deal to try it for 30 days, finance it for $25 a month, it includes the 2-year warranty and the Plus service, I can tell you, just by getting this device set up last night and ready to go, once that Plus membership was activated, I had access to everything that they gave MetaQuest 3 users all year. We're in August. We're in the 8th month of the year, right? So, like, I have 2 free games a month with MetaQuest Plus. So, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, now we're in August. I got 16 free games right from the start available to add to my library. One of them is a Jurassic Park title that was available on the Oculus Quest 2 that I debated many times. Do I want to spend $30 on this game? And I passed on it a lot of times, even when it was on sale, even when I had store credit. For some reason, I just decided to get something else and not grab this Jurassic Park game. I could say they gave it to me free. I added it to my library. I installed it. I put at least 30 minutes into it. I recorded that shit. I posted it on my Facebook account. Y'all can watch that shit right now. And that's a good example of what I'm planning on doing with OGPC VR Live is documenting my experiences and posting that shit, giving you guys additional content so now I can play some fucking games. And that's the thing, I'm not going to be all over the place with it. I'm going to focus on like one title at a time and then move on to something else. But right now, I haven't even had this for 24 hours, but it went through the initial setup, got everything ready to go. I can say, as far as, like, there's not much of a graphical change to me. There might be to other people, but to me it's pretty much kind of like going from the Nintendo Wii to the Nintendo Wii U, where it's like the same interface kind of thing, it's in the same type of setup, it's very familiar, but at the same time it's more of a performance upgrades. It adds new features for the headset, because there was a lot of experimental features on the MetaQuest 2 that are now out of the box factory features, and there's still experimental features on this that they give you the opportunity to like guinea pig with. But for the most part, the headset feels better. You know, it's a little slight heavier. They say it's like 20 grams, but to be honest with you, that's a bag of weed. So if I have to have a bag of weed hanging on my Oculus Quest 2 to basically be on par with the weight of the MetaQuest 3, I'm okay with that. I could have the bag of weed on my face. It's not going to kill me. But I will say these controllers are absolutely amazing and so much better than the Oculus Quest 2 controllers, basically because there was this obnoxious round tracking ring that basically your thumb was between, and it was basically to track, it was for tracking with the cameras and whatnot, but it was basically clunky as hell. And from what I remember reading on the internet with like Facebook groups, when people had issues with like breaking their device or something going wrong, if they weren't dropping their headsets, they were basically banging their controllers off shit. So it was usually the tracking rings that were the first to go. So I'm glad that they got rid of those entirely. But this isn't going to be my last MetaQuest episode of anything, because as this goes on, I'm going to have future game reviews. And like I said, I mean, there's going to be plenty of additional content. So make sure you follow me on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe to my Instagram, because that stuff's going to be cross-posting as well. And if you were a MetaQuest 3 user, find me in the metaverse. Ian Daddy Bones, at Ian Daddy Bones, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. If you're, I mean, I got people watching this right now that have probably already owned an Oculus Quest 2, maybe decide they don't want to get an Oculus Quest 3, maybe some people are just over VR in general, and I understand that might be a thing, because I was asking some people about, oh, you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, did you see it in standard or did you see it in 3D? And I remember some people telling me that they didn't think it was available in 3D, because I didn't think people did 3D movies like that anymore. And I'm like, I just saw Mutant Mayhem last year in 3D, and that was fucking amazing. I hope Deadpool and Wolverine is in 3D. And I did get confirmation that it is. I haven't seen the movie yet, which is probably going to shock some people, and I already know everything that happens in it. It's really not going to... It really didn't ruin anything for me. If anything, I want to see the movie more, but that's going to do it for this episode of Ian vs. Daddy Bones. Like I said, get at me on the socials, Ian vs. Daddy Bones. Subscribe for $2 on the Facebook. I appreciate it. It'll help me buy more VR games and Hot Wheels cars for my kids. Subscribe to the Patreon for $3. The difference between the Facebook and the Patreon, Facebook gets all the bonus content going forward from the time I was able to offer Facebook subscriptions. Patreon goes all the way back to the first episode of the show, which includes the entire archive of bonus content I've done on Ian vs. Daddy Bones.
Fuck
so
Ian
until
Daddy
next time,
Bones. Fuck
cheers,
Widow,
Pete.
whatever the hell it is. No one gives a shit about you, Ian. Everyone hates you. Fuck off. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Having a banger and you're all invited. Share with friends and I'll see you later. Bring everyone, invite my haters. Throw your hands in the fucking air. Let's push a cripple down a flight of stairs. Got new shit right for your ears. My Hadouken is downright fierce. Rock out with my cock out. Jump around, I got your shout outs. I'm Daddy Bones, no need to panic. Talking riddles like a schizophrenic. 24/7, I got the party. Roofie roos and whoop-de-doos. Retarded fools with attitudes, bro. Everything's mixed with Bacardi. Glow stick black like tons of bubbles. Titties on bitches, nothing but trouble. Got my pills, ain't no quitter. Pop that shit, here comes my glitter. Not a dancer, I got no skills. Bobbing my head and standing still. Tons of bitches, ravers, goths. Down the fuck and get your salad tossed. It's the greatest thing that you ever saw. Put your hands in the air for a party. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Having a bang and you're all invited. Get kids posing, muscles flexing, trains dressed like a favorite X-Men. If there's one thing that drives me crazy, you give high fives but you fucking hate me. Might have rabies, might have herpes. Breastfeed me and you'll have to burp me. I'll be up on stage, throwing out beads, grabbing my dick and spraying my seed all over your face. That's fucking rude. Raise it up and show your boobs. Dance around and go friggin' nuts. Just b-boy stance and light your blunts. Don't be a cunt. Tuck your chain, don't start no shit. Use your brain, it's all a game. Let's play some Yahtzee. Eat Tide Pods and punch a Nazi. Not a dancer, I got no skills. Bobbing my head and standing still. Tons of bitches, ravers, goths. Down the fuck and get your salad tossed. It's the greatest thing that you ever saw. Put your hands in the air for a party. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Having a bang and you're all invited.